I'd like to welcome everybody to the 12th month of the family podcast here at Country Road. This is pretty exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to what we're going to talk about today. So this is something that I've really struggled with a lot, especially in my early sobriety. We're going to talk about the higher power, God, a power greater than ourselves, which is something that I've really struggled with. But before we get into that, quick reminder, if you do have somebody here that's with us at our facility in our program, please do not post their comment. Please do not post their names in the comments section.
Or their comment.
Or their comment. But please, as you have questions, post them in the comments, and we will do what we can to maybe even come back to those questions for the next podcast or answer them in the comments section.
And it also helps us to know who has watched if you're doing this in order to be able to do family therapy, because this is one of the things we ask families to do before they come for family therapy, is to watch one of the podcasts and comment on it so that we know that you were there. Or you could probably even just hit like.
Yeah, I've had a few folks that just say hi.
Yeah.
Say hi.
Yeah.
Some way, so we know you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but really excited to have you. Join us this evening. Or whatever time of day it is that you're watching the podcast. So like I said, we're going to be talking about more of what we touched on last week or last month, steps in a 12-step program.
Yeah.
And so
Action steps for families.
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly.
See, action steps.
By the way, she's Kimberly. I'm Kathy.
Yeah, Kimberly.
Sorry, we're just kind of silly
Welcome.
on this. We kind of hang out for an hour and talk about our experiences. For me, as a family member, I'm also the clinical director here. Kathy as a family member. Pierce as
Someone in recovery.
There you go.
Yeah.
I didn't know
A family
how he
member.
might want to be
All of the above.
exposed.
Do you have all the above?
Yeah, I do have all the above. I check all the boxes.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off tonight?
Yeah.
This is something that's, really personal to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we touched on last month, because what we're focusing on last month and this one, it's kind of a two-part, I don't know if series is the right word, but anyway, talking about action steps that families can take for ourselves, because we spend so much of our time and focus on our loved ones that those of addiction, and helping them and trying to control everything, that we forget to take care of. I don't know if we forget. We're not even a focus.
We're too busy being martyrs.
Exactly. So we're talking about how to take
and it
care
doesn't
of ourselves.
fit with being a martyr. If we take care of ourselves,
right,
we can't be a martyr anymore.
Right.
So
yeah,
that's why we don't think about it.
no. So we talked last month about 12-step programs for families, which there are many of. There's some for families of alcoholics, drug addicts. If you're a child, even an adult child of an addict or alcoholic, there are programs for teens. There's so many options out there. There are some that are spiritual. There are some that are strict, like very faith, depending on your faith based. I don't know. I think most of them have a spiritual component to them to some degree. But the lovely thing about that is, I know a lot of our folks who come in here have a lot of issues on the spiritual God, whatever that means to you, side.
Yeah.
Which I get. I mean, I can imagine if you're living a life like that for so long and you're not loving yourself, there's no way you're going to think something greater than you could possibly love you.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that out of so many people's mouths. And I could see we having the same issue, us having the same issue, that we've just been in this misery for so long that how could there be something bigger than me out there that even cares anymore, if they did ever. So
I don't think that was ever my problem.
No, it wasn't mine either, but I've definitely heard that from others. And I
struggled with that.
Yeah.
Did you?
I know Drew did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that might be the difference between someone who's in addiction versus the family member or the loved one. Because my issue with it wasn't that for my higher power is Jesus. So it wasn't that I thought he didn't love me or how could he love me. My question was more like, wasn't even more like, why are you letting this happen? Because I blamed my husband.
Right.
Quite clearly it was all his fault, right? But my problem was more so of, why aren't you fixing him?
Right.
And so
a little bit of how are you letting this happen, maybe.
Yes, but not to me, because I was fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
But why aren't you fixing him?
Right.
That was kind of more my mindset.
Right.
Yeah. So that control and that martyr, like, Lord, I'm doing all of these things. Would you please fix him?
Right.
So even being codependent with Jesus and trying to control and doing all of this, like, but I didn't see it. I didn't even see that.
No. Well, and I'll tell you. So, like I said, we talked about 12-step programs last week, in the first few steps involving realizing that we are powerless over our loved ones, over their addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable, which no question for me on that front. But this, we kind of move into some of the further ones into it, which is talking about like a higher power, having some sort of spiritual connection, being in your life. And I know the lovely thing is, it doesn't have to be God per se, Jesus per se. It can be whatever. And I believe in the other addiction 12-step programs. I'm trying to.
You mean like AA and A?
Yes. That it's kind of the same way. It doesn't have to be God specifically, Buddha specifically, what have you. Just whatever that higher power, what it's something you can believe in bigger than yourself.
Yes, no one's dictating your belief.
No. And I know a lot of people come in that just are mad at God, don't believe in God, whatever. So you can find a way to make this work for you, so you have something bigger than you to rely on and talk to, and get that, help facilitate that change in you.
Here was my biggest problem with God. I think when I first came in, for a long time I just didn't believe, didn't think anything was out there. I had decided at a young age that the universe was the creator of who I am and all this scientific stuff. And then when I started to kind of have this idea of maybe there's something out there. The problem I was having was, I have real world problems.
Right.
I've lost the custody of my kids. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. I can't pay my rent. Like, how is God ever going to fix the things that are going on with me? My family members are struggling with addiction. Where does God fit into this, and how can he ever fix something like this? So my struggles with having a higher power, and for the sake of it, is I'm just going to call my higher power today. I call my higher power today God. And like Kathy was saying, that can be whatever you decide it to be. And I have a little story about that I'll share later. But my problem was, how in the world could God fix all of these problems that I have? And so somebody approached me, and they were in a 12-step program, and they said, well, do you think God can get you sober? And I said, no, God's not powerful enough to get me sober. He just said, well, do you think that hanging around a group of drunks could get you sober? And I mean a group of drunks being sobered drunks, people that are in recovery.
Folks in recovery.
Oh, okay.
Folks in recovery, that's what I'm saying.
Go to the bar, you'll get to
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, I thought he was just being sarcastic.
Right.
No. All these guys, all these drunks were sober and living really productive lives. And he was like, do you think they could serve as the power greater than yourself? And so that's when the light bulb kind of clicked. Trust the people that were around me that were sober. And they were the ones that could guide me. They were the ones that could, help me stay sober. And so they kind of became, at that time, my God. And as I've progressed through my recovery, God for me has changed significantly. I have a great relationship with God today. But it started really simple. It started by just trusting that the person in front of me that had good sobriety was going to guide me and and help me find what he found.
Mhm.
And I think that's where a lot of us are. That's where a lot of my friends are when they've stepped into sobriety.
Mhm.
They don't believe in God either. I just have to say, you know what, just come on, just hop on the train, find a fellowship that has what you want, and they're doing what you want to do.
Mhm.
More than likely, they're going to be able to bring you in and kind of show you around. You know?
Right. Which I think that's because people say, oh, I've surrendered because I've admitted that there's a problem, right? But admitting there's a problem and not picking it back up and doing it your way, that's what surrender is exactly what you just described. Trusting in these people who you don't know,
Mhm.
or this God that you don't know. Because mind you, I said I was a Christian for years, but did I allow Jesus to fix my husband, so to speak? No, because he wasn't doing it the right way, wasn't doing it in the right time frame. And so I would pray these prayers, but then I would go back to working on fixing my husband because
dictating to God how it needs
yes,
to be done. Yeah.
yes, because I clearly know better. And so I was never trusting. But if you had asked me, I would have said yes.
Mhm.
But I didn't even understand what the word trusting
Mhm.
really meant. And I think that that's a huge misstep that most people make, that they don't understand. It's about trust and faith,
Mhm.
and whatever that is, because faith is believing what you can't see. So all these times I'm saying, Lord, fix my husband, then I have to trust and believe that's going to happen, and leave my husband alone and
Mhm.
let God do what he's going to do with my husband, and let him work on me,
Mhm.
because I didn't have any problems, but clearly I had many, but I couldn't do that. And I couldn't even see the forest for the trees because there were so many trees, and I was so lost and so blinded that I didn't even understand the basics. And that's really what it is stepping all the way back
Mhm.
to the basics and believing that you know nothing and starting over.
Well, and I think
Right.
one of the hardest things, I don't know about you, but like when I finally got to a point where I was like, I can't, my life is nuts. I'm looking for problems at this point. Like things were actually going really well, and I was looking
Yeah.
for stuff to be concerned about.
Yes. Yes.
And but like I was at the point where I didn't need one hand to count the number of people I felt like I could trust. So the thought of I luckily, maybe unluckily, I don't know, walking into the program I went into, had an idea of how that worked. And I know the steps I was going to have to take, and I was going to have to do a lot of things and confide a lot of stuff into a total stranger. And the thought of that was terrifying. Just walking into that room the first time, forget that. Making that phone call to initiate all of this was terrifying. Luckily, the person I'm going to say referred to came from Drew, and I was like, he trusts this woman. I'm going to trust her. I have to do something. But it was scary. I was like, I don't know you, and why would I tell you my things? No. But also the way these programs are set up is they are these steps that people take in these programs. They're in an order for a reason, and they kind of start you off with this more simple things, so that you can develop that relationship with that person you have to tell all the things to.
Mm-hmm.
And you can develop that trust, which is fantastic, because if you at day one had said, okay, tell me all your stuff so I can help you figure out how to fix it, I would have turned around and walked right back out the door. There was no way that was going to happen.
Right. Which for some people, they might be dying to tell somebody.
Right.
And so there is that opportunity there.
Oh, absolutely.
It's they're meeting you where you're at.
Yes. And the lovely thing, I think we talked about this last month, is like when you do finally make that decision to pursue one of these programs, like you're walking into a room with a bunch of lovely people who know exactly where you are right now. They've been there themselves. They understand all of those terrible thoughts you've had.
Mhm.
They understand all those awful feelings you had, and they've also been doing this work and have found their way to a better place with things. And that's why, bless them, they're there and they can help you
Right.
get there too.
Right. And they're not there trying to talk you into leaving.
No.
They're not there to do that. That was always my big thing about
Yes.
going to Al-Anon. I was not, I was embarrassed, but I was terrified they would tell me to leave my husband, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that.
No.
I just wanted to learn how to stay. I didn't want to leave,
Right.
but I didn't know how to stay.
Right.
And so I needed those answers.
Right.
And that understanding that I'm not a crazy lady just because I still love my husband.
Right.
And know his good things, even though this craziness is happening to us.
Right. I think those are that like walking in the doors for a lot of the family members. They expect you're going to tell me I have to leave or kick them out or whatever,
Mhm.
and B, but also you're going to tell me how to fix them.
Mhm.
And neither of those are what
No.
you're getting with these programs.
No.
It's actually like your program helps you focus on you and get you to a healthier place. That's what the family side of it is as
Mhm.
well. So I'm sorry, but no, we're not going to tell you how to fix your person.
Mhm.
But we are going to help you get to a happier, healthier place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is lovely.
So when you first walked in the doors and you began to learn about what powerlessness meant, what unmanageability meant, what insanity meant, why does God play such a crucial role in all that? And why was it important to learn those things first?
Well, the whole point is that I could not fix me and all of my crazy myself as much as I thought I could. I was under this illusion that I was managing all of this stuff. I had all these balls in the air and I was juggling like a pro. I could have gone to a circus and headlined, I'm telling you. But in reality I wasn't. I realized down the road, I was doing a whole lot of stuff to keep myself busy, to try not to worry and be scared all the time. But the cool thing is as I remember my mentor, one of the first things she had me do is like write down the definition of powerlessness. Like look it up, write down that definition, and then write down everything in your life that you're powerless over. And she had me do the same thing with unmanageable, the word unmanageable, and do the same thing. And then she's like, okay, let's chat about that. And so we went through that list and she's like, okay, are you getting why I had you do this? Do you get the point of this? And I'm like, look, yes. Also, you don't understand. I'm a little stubborn, which was pointed out to me yesterday. Anyway, it's helped me, and it took a while because I mentioned stubborn, but it's gotten me to the point where I did understand finally. I can't control your behavior. I can't make you be healthy. I can't make you not drink. I can't make you not do drugs. I can't make you tell me stuff when I want to know stuff. I can't make you behave. I can't make you do things I want you to do. I can try to manipulate you a little bit.
Right.
I can play on your feelings like I've had done to me. But in the end, it's all that is me trying to control all the things again.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a while because, did I mention I'm stubborn, for me to realize as much as I push and complain and I never had control over anything. Even myself, like I didn't like that stuff about me at all, but I couldn't figure out how to change it myself.
Yeah.
And through time, I've been in this program a little over 2 years, and through time, the cool thing is I could see those changes happening because I was working the program. And suddenly you realize, ooh, I reacted to something much differently than I used to, and it was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that had nothing to do with me outside of, yes, I was doing the work, but if I could have changed these things in myself, trust me, I would have done it a long time ago.
It changed a long time ago.
Yes, because I was not happy.
Yeah.
I was miserable all the time. So when you start noticing that you're reacting differently to things, that you're not scared all the time. that you're not angry all the time. None of this goes away. Life is life. Things happen.
Right.
But these programs help you deal with them in a better way. They help you react to them in a better way. They help you react to all kinds of things, hopefully in a better way. I'm working on that one still. But
a lot of these things change over a long period of time.
It is.
It's a long period.
Yeah. And it helps you learn about character defects. That's a term we use. You start to learn about those things with yourself that you may not even have realized before. Some of them help you survive a lot of the stuff you've gone through. And they served a purpose for a while. But eventually you realize now they're just a detriment. And eventually you start seeing those kind of fall away. Again, maybe not permanently, but they're not popping up like they used to, which is really nice.
I tried for many years to get myself and keep myself sober. I might be able to get myself sober for like a week tops, but I was not able to maintain sobriety. And no matter how hard I tried, no matter what plans that I came up with, no matter what boundaries I set with myself no matter what boundaries I set, phone numbers I've deleted, people I annexed from my life, it always came back. Always came back. And so, that's what really put me into that super hopeless state is why do I keep doing the same things over and over and over?
What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
I'm such a loser.
Where's my willpower? Doesn't make and it just really didn't make any sense to me at all. And so, you get to this place where, and what's the definition of insanity? Repeating the same things over and over, expecting a different result. And that's how I lived. One of my favorite things to say is, I'll quit tomorrow. That was one of my favorite things to say was I was going to quit tomorrow. And tomorrow was 2 years ago. Tomorrow was a long time ago. And so I think that's where my higher power really started to take shape in my life. Is when I realized, okay, I can't do this. And that's why, I mentioned at the beginning that the group of drunks, sober group of drunks. I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do it on my own. My previous experience showed me that. I really thought I really wanted to, but I couldn't, and I was miserable enough to try it somebody else's way for a while. And so that's really what started to form that relationship with that higher power, was realizing that I can't do it alone.
I can see that in myself, and because I was always, because it was a cycle, right? Because it was pills. So he'd get the prescription and as time went by, like that might be gone in a day, but it would cycle, like, he'd be up because he's got the prescription, and then it would start to taper because now he's starting to run out. And then we're hitting that bottom, and it just felt like it just kept going if I don't fall out. But then the prescription was coming, right? So then, like, the excitement would start to build, and he would start to go up, and then he'd get it, and then throw my glasses off. So, but I always did the same things through his cycle as well. So I was going up and down and doing all of my crazy, matrices and ninja moves of, what I thought was going to control this or make it better. But it was never anything different. It was never anything different. I was too afraid to do the different things because I was held in a fear of, if I say anything, if I address this head on, if I make a healthy boundary, if I say enough and I take the kids and I go, not with the intention of getting a divorce, but just being out of the crazy, he's going to leave. and then what happens to my kids, and then what happens to their relationship. And it just hit me. I never connected this, but maybe this is part of where it came from. So my parents, it was my dad's second marriage. So I am number 6 out of 7 of his kids.
Oh, wow.
And he had 5 kids with his first wife, and they lived hour and a half tops from where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And I can count on one hand the number of times I saw them.
Wow.
So maybe in the back of my mind, because I just hurt throughout my childhood, that I had these brothers and this other sister that I didn't get to see. And what did I do?
Right.
Right. And this wasn't, they were I say they were much older. I think Lisa's, Peter would be next. So I think Peter's 2 to 4 years older than me. So I don't even know their birthdays and stuff, because we're still not in touch with each other. I'm in touch with 2 of my 4 brothers.
Wow.
And that's it. So, that's the damage that the adults did.
Right.
And so maybe somewhere that was a piece of it, that I didn't want my kids to, their dad not have any contact with them, because I couldn't control things if he, wasn't there to be controlled. If he had some freedom, he might not choose to spend time with the kids. He might have, I don't know. But then if he did, well, you're not watching them by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It was just there was no win.
Right.
There was no right way to do it that I could see.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just constantly flailing around trying to control the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't. With all of the best of intentions, right? But what is that saying? The best intentions lead to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where we were, from all of my good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so I put my kids through all of that. I put my husband through all of that, because I was supposed to be the sane one. But y'all know I say I was the sicker one, because I wasn't doing any drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposedly healthy, but what we don't realize is we become sick with their sickness, and we lose all form of identity, all trust in anything or anyone. Even though deep down we know what we need to do, but we're so imprisoned by fear, we won't do it. We will not step out on that water, because we don't know if we're going to sink or swim or whatever, but the idea of even lifting our foot is too much. So we're not going to do it.
That brings me into my next question. I'll ask you it first, because you really brought it up.
I did not.
Why is tough love? Why is tough love sometimes the best thing for the loved ones that are struggling?
So to me, tough love makes it sound like we're being mean. And so I don't think of it that way. To me, what that really is I am now focused on me and what is healthy for me and my kids, if I have kids, right? But what is healthy for me? I am the only one who can make decisions about me that are healthy for me. And I need to focus on me, which, by the way, early on in my final step toward, okay, I'm going to live this life as a Christian, as I prayed my little heart out. I prayed and I prayed. I was crying, but I wasn't praying out loud. And nobody knew. Where I go to church, if you want to pray, you can pray. And there were people who were praying, but I was not praying out loud. I don't know what else anybody was praying, but I was praying my heart out for this man. He needed so much help. And the answer I got, which is unmistakable, because nobody knew when I was praying, but I heard very loud inside my head, and no, I don't need meds or anything like that. I heard very loud and distinct, "What are you doing?"
Mm.
And I always go back, and that was 30-ish years ago, but it's taken me this long to finally really start to understand that's what tough love is. My husband was doing his thing. I can't control him, but I can control me. So you can't control anybody, but y'all, hopefully you're getting what I'm saying. I had to focus on me. What are you doing? If this isn't right for you, why are you still there?
Right.
Why are you choosing to go through this when no one's holding a gun to your head? And if they are holding a gun to your head, that's when get out.
That's a whole different conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
That wasn't being done to me. But here I am. I'm choosing this. I'm miserable. My kids are miserable. My husband's miserable, but he doesn't know how to get out. I don't know how to get out, but I'm blaming him for my choices. These were my choices. The only one to blame was me. Nobody was making me stay. Nobody was making me, mismanage the money, robbing Peter to pay Paul, because I was too afraid. Like, what if he takes some money to go get some pills? I got to have this stash. I got to do. It was so much craziness. But that's tough love isn't about being tough on them. It's being tough on you. It's owning your piece of it and doing something about it for you. It changes everything. It changes how they respond to you and what's going on in their life if they choose to remain in your life. Because if my decision is, I am going to be financially responsible. Financially responsible means I don't have money for the drug dealer anymore. I don't. And it also means you're not going to be on the account because you are not financially responsible. And that's not being mean to you. It's just a fact. I'm going to be financially responsible. I'm going to put my check in my own account. You are not going to have access to it or my card or any of those things. And I'm going to stick to that, because don't think I didn't do that. But the minute give me the card, here you go. I would never stick to my own boundary for me.
That's
right.
That's something else that I want to touch on.
But that's what tough love is having your boundary for you.
Yeah. There's consequences that come with it.
Yes, there is.
And you touch on that as well. And so when we do set those boundaries, when we do have that tough love on ourselves or our loved one, there can be a reaction that comes from them.
Because there's always a ripple.
Extremely uncomfortable.
Yes.
Did you ever struggle with that?
Just set the boundaries.
An uncomfortable consequence that came with setting boundaries.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, and again, like a lot of it comes down to is fear. Like the more I've done work on myself, I've realized
it's fear.
Everything comes back to fear.
Yep.
Whether it's fear of they're not going to love me anymore, fear they're going to leave,
they're going to get mad,
they're going to get hurt, whatever it is. And that's the hard thing with setting those boundaries. I'm probably not going to answer your question. I'm just going off what was in my head while Kimberly was talking. But it's funny because we do, like in my program, we talk about learning to set boundaries. I don't know that setting or stating those boundaries is even the hard. I mean, it can be, because what is just the reaction of putting that out there. But I think the harder part is actually sticking to them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you're going to put that boundaries are not, if you do this, I'm going to do this, bossing you around, giving you orders, telling you what you need to do. That's
what people think of as tough love.
That is not boundaries.
It's not.
It is a matter of, this is what I need for me to feel safe, to feel comfortable, to keep me sane.
And I'm going to put me first.
Yes.
Which we never do.
No. Like if you cannot respect that, that's on you. But you and I will not be whatever. I will.
Right. And that's your choice.
Yes.
You don't have to respect my boundary, but I'm going to respect my boundary.
Correct. But the hard part sometimes is sticking to those. And This is like the analogy that I've always had in my head that I've had to remind myself of when I try to set a boundary with somebody. If you've ever raised a child or have a younger sibling or something, like one of the little people in your life, if you tell them no on something and they eventually wear you down because you're tired of hearing the but why, but please come on, no, because we all know who that is, and you give in. Yeah, all you just did there is teach them that if I nag you enough,
Yes.
if I yell at you enough, if I mean enough to you,
Yes.
if I threaten you enough, what have you, you're not going to stick to that.
Yes.
So it has to be boundaries that you can actually stick to and
Yes.
live with. And also, I remember shortly.
That's why it can't be threats.
No. Well, and I remember shortly after coming to work here, this frustrated me for months. And I ended up talking to Mark, one of our clinicians, of all people. That man. Okay, that's a whole other tangent. Anyway.
Gosh, we'd have
He's
to have
had
a
so
whole year
many
of
of all of our stories.
podcast.
He has, but I have to tell, I hate admitting the fact that he has had such a positive effect on me in so many ways just because he's ornery and I want to push him in the pool. But anyway, I remember talking to him. I was really frustrated because I would hear our admissions team a lot talk to people about, you just tell them they can't come home, kick them out, whatever. And that would, coming from the family member side, my brain just went to, but what if I did? What if I did that?
Die.
They could go out and
Right, because we go to the extremes. They'll be on the
Everything.
streets and they'll be
Everything.
cold. And
Yes.
They
Yes.
need me. It's
Yes.
about me.
Yes.
It's not about them.
I need to, it all comes down to my comfort, my feelings.
That's wild.
It's true.
Oh yeah.
We think it's about them, but it's about
If
us.
you're crying in front of me, I will be crying with you. That's not a thing, crying alone in my presence. But also, I need you to feel better and stop because I'm uncomfortable, if I'm being totally honest. Yes, I have sympathy for you. Yes, I need you to be okay.
But you
Do
need
you
to
what I
quit.
just said? I need you to be okay.
Yeah.
Because it makes me uncomfortable. I never noticed that till somebody pointed that out during one of my meetings. I was like, oh, man. Yeah. But anyway, I digress often.
No, but that's the truth. That's
Yeah.
the core of our issue with
Yes.
this illness. Everything we think we are doing because of them,
For altruistic.
but it's
Yes.
all about us, our comfort level, our fear,
Mhm.
our everything. So when we start to set those healthy boundaries, that's very uncomfortable for us because
Oh.
we don't even know who we are anymore.
Nope.
So
We don't trust ourselves anymore. No.
And we think we're crazy
Mhm.
and mean and unreasonable to open that checking account and not allow them to have access for it because we think of it in that backward sense of I'm being mean to them versus I'm just trying to be healthy for myself.
Mhm. Yeah. And you know what? There are ways, especially when it comes to money, there are ways. It doesn't have to be I completely cut you off from all of the money. You got to figure out all the things yourself. Although if we're being totally honest, if someone said that to you and you wanted drugs, did you find a way to get those drugs?
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna.
Absolutely. if they were a 10-minute car drive from you, but you didn't have a car, did you find a way to get there to go get those
I
drugs?
always found a way to get anything that I.
Absolutely, they did. And sometimes
Sorry, Mama.
Wait. Yeah.
She
sometimes-
knows. I'm just kidding.
She knows.
I know.
Sometimes we
Sorry.
have to be reminded of that. Like,
Yeah, they'll be all right.
you don't have to drive them to work. If they need to get to work, they will find a way to get there. Now,
Mhm.
having said that, if your child, husband, whomever, if they need gas money to get to work, nobody says you can't help them with that. Don't hand them $40. You can go to the gas station and fill their tank with whatever amount you feel comfortable giving them that's not going to hurt you in the long run.
Right.
If your child is living somewhere else, Mom, I am starving. I can't. No, where did your money go? Where'd your money go?
Oh,
Drugs.
My money always went to drugs.
Right.
But when I was the worst off in my addiction,
It was drugs.
anything that I asked for that had to do with money
It was for drugs.
always went to one place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you called and said, Mama, I'm hungry. I don't have money. Like, I need food. I'm hungry. Mom probably shouldn't hand you $40 to go buy food.
No.
But Mom could take you to the grocery store
Yes.
if she felt in her heart that if I don't do this, my baby's going to starve.
And she did.
Go buy him groceries.
And she
Yes.
did do that.
There's a healthy way of doing those things where if you just cannot live with the fact that my child just called me and told me he's starving and he's going to die tonight because I didn't get him hamburger, don't hand them cash. But
Right.
there's a way to do that with healthy boundaries,
Yes.
where you're not hurting them or yourself, and you're sticking to those boundaries.
Right.
Yeah, and it is very difficult to stick to those boundaries once you've set them. And that's why it's so important to have that fellowship around you, because
Oh,
that
yeah.
fellowship
Yes.
around you
Helps
is
you know
really
you're
the
not crazy.
strength
Mhm.
behind your boundaries.
Right.
Because you can go to them and be like, "Hey, I'm really struggling today. I just need somebody to
Right.
talk to about this," or even going to them and saying, "Hey, am I doing this right?" Because they're an outside
Exactly.
perspective looking in, and you can say, I really feel like I'm doing something harmful by keeping this boundary, and then you can run it by somebody else that's maybe even set the same boundary,
Right.
and they'll either confirm or deny your suspicions,
Right.
and you go on from there.
Right.
That's what the fellowship's been so important for me, and it also they allow me they bring to my attention things that wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
Because I go back to what we began this conversation with. I don't really know I know the problem is me, but I don't know what behaviors keep that cycle going over and over and over.
Right.
And it's not until I sit down with somebody and they're like, "Hey, this is what you can do to
Right.
help your situation." And most of the folks around me, they didn't ever tell me what to do. They just said, "Hey, these are the things that we did.
Exactly.
Yeah, these are the things that we did that worked for us. These are the boundaries that we set. If I were in your shoes, I may have set this boundary that would have helped." That's what when I hear you guys say like how, because it sounds so difficult. It
Well-
sounds so difficult to set these boundaries.
And the key thing that you said, even though we've kind of been talking about it all along, is you went to these people. So you went to the drugs that were in recovery, right? So you went to those people, right? You went to people who, although I don't know them, I mean, I probably know some of them, but they're not unflawed human beings. They still make mistakes, but they're actively trying to live a
Every
certain
day.
way every day, right? So you have to be careful who those people are that you're talking to, because for me, I would talk to people. I would desperately talk to people because I felt like I was crazy.
Mhm.
I wanted an answer. Nobody would give me an answer, and nobody could show me different either, because the people I was talking to, I didn't trust, and B, I all I could see, some of them were trying to live a right life,
Mhm.
right? But all I could see, Beam and I, was all of the mistakes they were making. So why would I listen to them?
Mhm.
Right? I couldn't see the bigger picture of their life, that they were working really hard to live a better life, to live a right life. But all I could see was any mistakes and flaws. And so, well, they don't know. And I wasn't thinking it through that way, but it was like, I had no trust
Mhm.
for anybody except for ultimately myself, which was the last person I should have trusted, because I was the one keeping myself in that situation, my kids in that situation, my husband in that situation, because I kept inserting myself into his chaos. So anything that he wanted to do, like to get better, I probably said something very passive aggressive, and maybe he hadn't said it out loud of what he wanted to do, but he dang sure wasn't now. So he wasn't getting right support from me.
Mhm.
So he couldn't trust me back. Or if he did say, I want to get help, well, then I would swoop in and do everything for him,
Oh,
which
sure.
means he has not built up any self-worth or self-respect by doing something himself. So no matter what he might have tried to do, I was making sure I was keeping him boxed in without realizing that's what I was doing. So I was keeping him from getting well at all costs because of my fear.
Mm-hmm. You just reminded me, we were at a conference once, and my mentor was actually speaking at this. And I remember Drew was like sitting right next to me while we're listening to her talk, and she was talking about that.
Mhm.
And she said this phrase, helpfulness is the sunny side of control.
Mhm.
Ooh.
It's like somebody had punched me in the stomach. And of course, Drew, who is one of the people I love to be most helpful with, slowly starts turning his head and looking at
And
me.
you, bam.
Bam. Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
I won't say the exact words, but basically told him to turn that head back around and look forward. But it's funny, I'd never thought of it that way. It was like you just said, I'm trying to make sure all the things are okay and you're okay.
According to my
yes.
rules.
Yes. And I actually, in a meeting one night, I remember somebody talking about, because like I said earlier, more often than not, me trying to help people is because I'm uncomfortable with what they're going through. So I need to feel better. I need them to feel better so I feel better.
Mhm.
Something else somebody had said, same meeting, was she talked about how sometimes our need to be so helpful and take over and do those things for them so we know they're okay, so I can be okay and the things are getting done. Sometimes in those moments, we're telling our loved ones, I don't think you're capable.
Yes,
Of
that's
doing
that's
this.
exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on top of them not already having self-esteem, but I just reinforce that.
I mean, and I can see why.
Go into full details, but there was literally an incident with Drew one day, like shortly after he got out of here, that in my mind, I'm being helpful and I'm just yapping at him about, here's this information and have you thought about this and and he, bless his heart, got fed up and turned around. It was like, I know, I got it. Thank you. He said it not as nice as that, but anyway. And so, nerd. But I instant like feelings hurt. Okay, well, forget you then, and I will go. And in that, luckily in that moment we worked it out. But it didn't occur to me that that's what he was feeling. And he was probably annoyed too that I would shut up. But in that moment, I'm sure it was coming off like, I know this already. I don't need you to mother me, basically.
Yeah.
Look, I've been to war. I don't need you to mother me.
Right.
You should do. Anyway, but you all do. But
It never does go away.
it doesn't. But yeah, in that moment, it never occurred to me that I was giving him that impression. I just thought I was being helpful and trying to make your life easier.
Yeah.
And reality of it was,
yes,
I needed me to feel better by helping you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get it. Michael and I had a conversation last night because one of our French bulldogs got out from under the fence.
Oh no.
So he called and he was frustrated. And I learned from our last conversation, just let him be frustrated. I don't have to try to fix it. Right. And I don't have to react to his frustration. Yeah. And you'd think that'd be obvious, but you have slip ups,
Sure.
right? So our last conversation, I slipped up in that way. So this time I just listened and I was like, okay. And he was like, okay, I'll talk to you later. It's fine. And he wasn't mad. He needed to vomit that out. I guess I'm his person that way. I should really think that, that's a nice thing. But, when people vomit on you, it's, it's not pleasant. God. So and I want to fix it. Right.
Yeah.
So when we hung up, I mean, it's all those urges are still there. It's do you pick it up? So when we hung up, I Googled, right? Because now I got to find the answer. Right. And I did. I found the answers of what the people out there who are experts on how to fix the fence so that she can't get under, right? And so I started to text it to him and I could hear, and I started matrixing back and I texted it to myself. And so when I got home last night, we started talking about it and I said, if you want, I did look up some things that might be of help. And I said, but just if you want. He looked a little frustrated and he said, well, what? And so I told him, well, this is what I found. And he stopped me when I got just partway in it because he already knew. He probably looked it up himself. He already knew exactly where I was going. But he said, I get that, but this is why I don't want to do that. But I appreciate it that you looked it up. So he worked on some things from our last conversation too. And my point is, it's always, you got to be working at it, and you have to be able to own your piece. Like I couldn't make him work at it, but I could work at mine. Right. So I didn't like come home with a stack of, like, I can see my parents. I can see my parents and what, you know, where part of this came from. If you've listened to other podcasts, like they would have had stacks of copies of information. Like I'm not going to read that crap. You know, I know how I'm going to react to that. Or my dad would have blown me up with emails and this and that and telling me how to, I'm like, my dad. Oh my goodness. But that was why I didn't text it to him, because I could see, no, don't do that. But it was good information. And so if he wanted it, great. If he didn't, whatever. Was I going to be all hurt and upset? No. I would have been before, like, how dare you? I looked all of this up. I took time to fix this.
And you don't value my opinion and my
yes.
input.
How, just because you're a man, you know, right? I would have gone through all of the things and been hurt. And he told me, this is what I plan to do. And I didn't understand a word he said, because I didn't grow up building fence or anything. I don't know anything. I'm like, I just said, oh, that sounds great. I'm sure it sounds like that'll be a great idea. But I just kind of left it at that and didn't think anything else about it. Whereas before I would have been fuming all night and upset and, you know, and maybe slamming things around, and just because he's got to know I'm upset. Even if I can't tell him I'm upset, he's got to know one way or the other.
I just learned a valuable lesson.
Don't piss me off. No.
No, it's
just like as he moves his chair. No.
No, that I don't have to respond all the time.
No.
Just because I have that emotional response dwell up in me doesn't mean that I have to dish it out.
Yeah.
How quickly did your feelings of I have to fix this go away? After
I texted it to myself.
Yeah, so pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And how long would it have taken it to go away if you had sent it, it hadn't have been received well? You said you didn't have
it'd been days, weeks.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
6 months from now, I might throw it out in the argument.
Yeah.
Or I didn't really argue with him. I would just like passively aggressive, you know, like treat him like a child or whatever. And that's why he probably doesn't want the information. He's like we just talked, he's a grown man. He knows how to use YouTube and things like that. So probably a little bit more work I can do for myself, but hey, it's still, it's a work in progress. I'm not perfect either, but at least we had a good conversation.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that was good.
Sounds like a lot of
the
progress.
last one was.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of really good progress.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Go you.
I'm trying.
This can translate so well into how loved ones operate with somebody in their household or a family member that's really deep in their addiction.
Oh yeah.
Because how you're explaining it, all I'm thinking of over here is like those sound like really good boundaries for somebody that's dealing with somebody in addiction. Is to be like, okay, but what was your experience with that? So like going through it.
You know, literally two things just popped in my head. One of them is that, because I may have mentioned I'm other people, that working the program I'm working, as we've both been working programs, Drew and I have come to a place where we deal with these kind of situations because we are each other's person to just vent to. We're aware of it. So it's, you know, look, sometimes I'm just kind of all over you, and it works for us. We're both fine with it.
Here's a cloth.
Yes. But we've also gotten to the point, because we, as much as neither one of us like to admit it, there's a bit of a codependent side on that front. And so it's like, I need to fix this for you. Let me fix this for you. So we've had to learn, I don't always need you to fix my things. Sometimes I just need you to hear me whine, is the reality of it. And so we finally have gotten to a point where if one of us is coming at the other one, we've both gotten very good at just being quiet while the other one's talking. when they do finally stop, our immediate response is, am I just listening?
I should try that one.
It's come in very handy.
Mm-hmm.
Are you just needing, which it means, are you just needing somebody to talk to in this moment? And more often than not, with him anyway, it's yes, I just needed somebody to hear me. Mine is usually, no, would you please give me your feedback? I need thoughts on this.
Right.
And I'm somebody who processes out loud. That's how I get through, frankly, all the things. And now that I'm talking, I can't remember what the other thing was, but yeah,
We've got to know.
I know it's going to make me crazy. As soon as we're done, it will pop in my head. But yeah, that's been one of the biggest helps between us, because our immediate instinct with each other is, let me help you with this. Let me fix this for you. Let me give you advice.
But you both had to start working on yourselves.
Yes.
To be able to have that conversation.
Yes.
To learn how to communicate.
We've had the bumps and bruises, and that's how we've learned from it. Because it's like, I don't remember asking your opinion.
So somebody just now starting the road that you're on. So say Kathy today ran into Kathy from 4 years ago and saw the unmanageability. What are some of the things that you would have told yourself?
Oh, gosh. One of the biggest things is, starting this is scary, because you don't want to admit, the first thing is, like, you have to admit to yourself that, like, just things aren't fantastic. I'm not controlling everything like I think I am. And there's got to be somebody or something out there that might know something that I don't, that may know a better way of doing things. Then it's just getting, honestly, the courage to call or text. Most people text anymore, but getting the courage to actually take that first step towards doing this. And if you can get past that fear, because again, everything comes back to fear. If you can get past that fear of making that phone call, sending that text, whatever it is, and then actually getting yourself to that program, to that meeting, whatever it is, like, you're going to be embraced with love and understanding. And you're going to meet a lovely group of people. We say this at ours, you may not like everybody, but you're going to feel that love. We love you the second you walk in the door. We know what you've been through. We know what you're feeling. And we love you for you, where you're at right now. And if you can, get yourself to that point, get yourself to that place, you can get on a road to feeling happy.
Thanks for everybody that's tuning in.
Yep.
And to those that have listened to multiple podcasts, or maybe even all the podcasts, thanks. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I hope that you're really getting something out of this. I know I'm getting something out of it. It seems like I've developed even better relationships with the both of you throughout this whole process. It's been a whole lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this next year. And I wish everybody happy holidays, happy new year. I'm gonna post Kathy's number in the chat. I'm also going to post my number in the chat and our facilities number. If you want to, if all the courage, if all you can muster with all your courage is a text message, that's fine. I'm going to put cell phone numbers up. The facility number will not be a cell phone number. You'll have to call that one. But Kathy and I's phone number, that will be a cell phone. You can just shoot us a text. But until next time, until 2024,
we're back in January.
Yeah. We'll see you later.
Right.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.